Hi everyone, for the sketch 6, we're going to be looking at some practice with 1-point perspective. Some of you this might be a review and some of this might be more new depending on last time you took an art class and when that was. With 1-point perspective, it's essentially arranging three-dimensional items in a way where the perspective or how they proceed back in space is very consistent. It's a little bit more mathematical than kind of like freehand drawing, but can be a nice approach if you're someone that likes consistency. So the sketch today, we're going to be looking at just 3 simple items. You're going to start off by putting in your horizon line. So this is thinking of where your surface essentially meets like open space. So for example, like if I was like having this be a table, this would be the surface of the table and where that meets the open air behind it. Once you have that horizon line in, then we're going to establish the vanishing point. This is going to be that point where all of our lines that establish depth are going to recede into. And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to start to establish our first item. So for this first item, I'm going to look at just like a box. With this box, I usually like to establish the side that is closest to me or the viewer first. This side is not going to be in perspective. It is just going to be that flat plane that we see. So you're just going to use vertical and horizontal lines for that first side. Once you have that first side in, then what we're going to do is we're going to start to establish that depth of that second side moving back in space. So I'm going to use my corners and my vanishing point to figure out the overall angles, and then instead of like how I would draw this just geometrically, I would have those sides usually be parallel. In perspective, they're no longer going to be parallel. You're going to show that change where they are instead going to that vanishing point. And then once I have kind of that general angle, then I'm going to figure out how far back in space my box is going and establish that back edge. That back edge is going to be parallel with the side, since the back side of the box is going to be parallel with the front side. And then I'm going to use, again, my vanishing point with the top corners to establish the depth on the top. And then same thing, figure out how far back I want it to go, and then establish that back edge. So it'll look something like this for that box. And then if I decide that I want to like add a lid, I'm essentially just going to take the information I already have. I'm going to add in that one more vanishing point of where that lid would be, and then I might enlarge that a little bit. I'm looking at just kind of continuing my lines off on either side to show that enlargement. But this will be pretty much the same process for all your items. And then as you move into your other couple items, you're going to think of that same thing, using your vanishing point to establish sides. For this one, I'm going to draw a pencil. So I'm going to establish that front side, that circle at the end for my eraser. Then I'm going to use my vanishing points to figure out where that side to side is. And then I'm going to, essentially, since a pencil is a fairly simplistic item, I'm mainly going to use my vanishing point all the way through then to establish like where I see those additional like segments or sides on my pencil, and then I'll figure out the end. And then one thing I do want to point out is, what if you have an object that goes over the side or over above the horizon line? What you're going to do then is you're going to start that same way. You're going to lay out that front side or that closest side of that box. You're going to use your vanishing point to find that second side. And then since essentially the top side is like behind those sides in our viewpoint, we're not going to see them. So unless you have like a glass item where you can see through it and you can see to those other sides, you wouldn't normally see those. And then if you are doing a see-through item, you can practice that as well. It's a good way to practice this perspective and seeing how just the overall shape connects. So it can be a really good practice if you are kind of struggling with this concept, and it helps you just to see kind of all sides of that shape as you're starting to get it drawn out. Otherwise, for the sketch 6, like I mentioned, it's just going to be 3 simple items. Think like boxes. If you want to do like little buildings or houses, that's fine too. But thinking just simple items, quick practice.